Um, so, all right. So, and I'm recording this, so I will eventually put this up. So, we're talking just briefly about the Messenger project. And I've kind of put it through several names. So, originally I called it Cheese Chats, and then thought that was just a stupid name. So, UWGB, everything's Phoenix. So I thought Phoenix Chat sounded cooler. So I think last semester, the one before that, maybe I changed it to Phoenix Chat. So, but you can call yours whatever you want. So, um, but basically, I'm going to show this PDF, and I will post this PDF eventually. I know I'm a little behind on getting things uploaded. It takes a little time to process the videos and upload them to YouTube, and it processes them there, and then I post the link. So it takes me a little longer than I want for that stuff. Oh, I don't need this PDF. Where'd my PDF go? Okay. All right. Okay. So, can I zoom it all? That's too much. Okay. So, this is kind of my terrible drawing job of the client server relationship between uh, the various components of the Messenger project. Okay, so so we're packing a lot of things in here. Okay, so if this is your first programming class, oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Thank you for saying that. Talking into a bubble. You know, when I have conferences, I'm used to talking to people with voices and sometimes little heads. So you guys make it awkward with your texts. All right. So, but thank you for saying that. All right. So where did I leave off here? So anyway, so this is graphical layout of the various components of the Messenger project. Okay, so these are hopefully, obviously, web browsers. So I'm trying to demonstrate that there are two separate web browsers. Okay, uh, I suppose these also could be the same web browser at different times. That's a piece of the puzzle here too. Um, and but at any rate, you're logging in with one user over on the left browser, and on the right browser, you're logging in with a second user. And you're punching in a message, and it shows up on both messages, show up on both browsers. Okay, so it's a messaging app. So and the means of communication is via your AWS server. Okay, so your web browser, your JavaScript application is communicating via a JSON API, which we've sort of used before with the address book program. And it's using a JSON API to communicate with a PHP application. PHP is just another programming language that's well suited to running on a web server. So you're going to get a little taste of another programming language. Nothing to freak out about. You don't have to touch those PHP programs at all, but you can if you want to. Uh, and the PHP programs are basically just interfaces to this MySQL database. PHP is an open source programming language. It's an open source piece of software. MySQL is an open source piece of software. Both of these run on your AWS server. They're both already installed, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. That stuff's already set up. You just have to put the software. You have to put the PHP program into there. The PHP program, not PHP, the programming language. Okay, so and I'll give you all of that. The layer that is represented by these red and blue arrows. These are the PHP programs. All right, so then these little boxes, these are what are handled by the MySQL database. So, and MySQL is uh, an implementation of an SQL relational database. SQL stands for Standardized Query Language, maybe Standard Query Language. I think it's standardized. And so anyway, MySQL is the most popular of these. Other ones in that realm are SQL Server from Microsoft, Oracle, Postgres. There's a few other ones, and the way they work is it's just simple tables, which you can think of as spreadsheets, and they are linked. They are related. The various spreadsheets are related by columns or rows, however you think about these metaphorically. These items are linked. Okay, so and I'll go over what these are. So we're just using two tables. Okay, again, a table is just like a spreadsheet. And we'll talk more about this on Thursday when we really dig into this. So we have two spreadsheets. One represents the user. So we have the sender and the recipient. Those are both users. So as a sender, I can send to. I'm only communicating with one user at a time. The way that I have this implemented. This is a really simple version of this. You could create something more robust that has multiple users, buddy lists, based on this code, based on this API. You could build something more sophisticated. I did not yet. So anyway, this uses the user table. The user table is made up of the username that you enter in here, a display name that could be pre-populated. So display name would be like a full name or some other non-username name, and then an image URL, which is not used by the program at all, but is sort of a storage space that could be used. So you could use this to store the URL of a JPEG or something to be used as a picture that could be used in your application. Okay, and then finally the ID, and the ID is a number that is generated by MySQL that that is used. I don't want to edit this. Sorry, no editing. The ID is used to be referenced in message. Okay, so this number, you as the programmer really don't need to know what it is for each user. Your program needs to eventually know in some way. It needs to know what it is. The PHP program anyway needs to know what it is, but your JavaScript program doesn't need to know what it is at all. And that's how the messages are communicating, because we store the sender ID. So let's say we have Bob and Alice. Bob is user number 2. Alice is user number 1. And Bob is the sender. Alice is the recipient. So Bob would be 2. Alice would be 1. So we'd fill in this information here, and we'd fill in 2 and 1. And then this ID would be whatever. It doesn't matter what this ID is. This is just used to have a unique identifier for the messages in case we need to reference them individually. A timestamp, and that's used to keep these in order when we pull them back up. Another image URL that could be used to store animated GIFs or some other kind of image in your messages. And then finally the message text. Okay. So, any questions so far? Tried to go through that relatively slowly, and it's hard when you're looking at just concepts. I don't have the working version installed right now, and I don't want to make you sit through the installation of it because we're going to do that on Thursday. Because I was expecting we'd have some more questions on the other stuff. So, anyone? Why do you guys never have questions? You're making me nervous. Looks cool. I mean, it can be. So, yeah, it can be cool. It can be cool. Yeah. Um, so, mm, 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 yeah. If you don't have any other questions, we can adjourn early today because that's really all I was going to cover. Um, we honestly in the other session we had a full class of questions, and then saved this for the last little bit. So I'm not prepared for to walk through the installation of this until yeah, quizzes I fell behind on too because I was working on the videos. So yeah, I had those problems a week or so ago on the videos, and that just put me behind on everything. So I'm sorry about that. Yeah, and I still have like other stuff going. It's not all good. We're gonna end up skipping out on one of the quizzes, so I had to reconfigure some of that too. When you fall behind on work, work backs up and it causes you more work. Don't fall behind. Yeah. All right. So good. If nobody has questions, I'm going to stop the recording. Lots of things you could have questions on, but I will stop them.